Hello, and welcome to Gwinnett County Victims Community Conversations, a brand new initiative under the new leadership of our District Attorney, Ms. Patsy Austin Gatson. The purpose of this initiative is to discuss different topics of life that help educate the community, spread the awareness, and reduce the gap between the community and the resources that are available for them. I am Uzma Khan, the Director of Witness Victim Program, right here in Gwinnett County District Attorney's Office. Thank you for joining us. Today's topic of conversation is very important. It is about our future. It is about our youth and the mental health challenges that they deal with. We have an amazing panel today to discuss the mental health of our future. I will allow the panel to go ahead and introduce themselves, tell us about their affiliations with different organizations, and the work that they do on mental health platform. I will start from here.
My name is Cora Fisher. I'm an Assistant District Attorney for Gwinnett County District Attorney's Office. I've been working in the Juvenile Court Division for about 4 years, where we provide treatment and resources to juveniles who are going through a time in their lives where they need a little more redirection.
My name is Rashida Sims. I'm a Managing Assistant District Attorney with Gwinnett County District Attorney's Office. I oversee the accountability courts, veterans, drug court, and mental health court. I also handle record restrictions, expungements, and motions to seal for Gwinnett County. I've been a prosecutor for nearly 2 decades, and I'm happy to serve this community.
I am Jillian Watley. I originally started out as a school psychologist in Gwinnett County Public Schools. I quickly ascended into leadership as the coordinator of psychological services and behavior programs in Atlanta Public Schools. I recently was the former executive director of student support services in Clark County School District, where I supervise counselors, psychologists, social workers, discipline in nursing, any of the hot topics that were really exacerbated during COVID-19. And right now I am the director of professional learning for Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, the ICLE division, where mental health is going to be one of our target areas upcoming this year.
My name is Larry Freeman. I'm a truck driver from Florida. I live in Gwinnett County. I'm a concerned parent here today, hoping that I could reach someone watching this and make a difference in their lives.
All right, so we're going to start with you, Dr. Watley. So at what age do you see the manifestation of mental health issue in youth? What are the signs that you would suggest our viewers to be aware of? And what kind of medications or therapies on regular basis are recommended for them?
Right. Now, what I will say is that the age of onset for every student or child is very different. Some kids, you see it very early in pre-K, some you see it in elementary school, and some, middle and high school. Now, what I will say is that over the last couple of years, COVID-19 has really exacerbated a lot of things in our community, and one of those is mental health. We already knew that there was a mental health challenge in the state of Georgia. And now it's a real mental health challenge and lack of resources that are there because those psychologists, those counselors, they're being inundated. And so sometimes those waiting lists are very long. And the school system is feeling that. As well as within the schools, I like to highlight that they have counselors, they have psychologists, and they have social workers. But in a lot of school districts, they're disproportionate. They have way too many caseloads, and it's just a lot of need. And so I want to make sure to highlight that because that's an advocacy point that we're trying to really get across to our partners to help us advocate for more mental health professionals in schools. Some of those signs that parents may see, you know your child best. I'm a parent. We know what's typical for our kid, but we also have to be very in tune with when they kind of deviate. So some things you may see is that they're not as socially engaged if they once were.
So what I'm understanding is there is nothing standard in place. It's not a cookie cutter, it's not one size fits all. Each child shows different signs. Each family has different situations where they might be seeing something that the others won't. So that's what I'm gathering from your...
Now there may be some hallmark signs. So for example, hygiene issues, and that's developmentally appropriate, right? So a hygiene issue for a kindergartner, it's very different than a hygiene issue for a 14-year-old. So you have to take development into consideration. Poor grades in schools, that's always a hallmark for educators. When a student's grades go from one, like an A to a drops to a C, and they just don't show any concern in school or lack of interest in activities anymore, that's you need to pay attention to that. Now, what I will say is that in the last couple of years, children have become very good maskers. And what do I mean when I say that? Sometimes we watch the news and we're like, oh my goodness, that kid was doing so well. How did they commit suicide? Like, what was going on? They were amazing. I can tell stories of situations I've known where that's happened. That's because they've learned how to develop this exterior that says I'm okay. We as adults have also learned how to do that. We continue to come to work, we continue to function, we continue to do everything, and then we go home and we're depressed. Well, the children have mimicked that same pattern of behavior. So what happens is it makes it very hard sometimes for the layperson to pick up that my child needs help. Why does my child need help? They're still dancing, they're going to Girl Scouts, they're still doing these things. They look happy, their grades are great, they're smiling. Well, everyone who smiles is not happy. Some folks are doing that because that's socially acceptable. And students and children know that. They know that there are behaviors that yield certain things in our society as well as in our schools. So we have to be mindful. One thing that I encourage parents to do is to really connect with their kids every day. Our children are overscheduled.
True.
In
That is so
schools
true.
and in society. We got them booked from early in the morning to late at night.
Yes.
And when is your time to connect with your child about what their day was like, their individual day, and how they're processing their teachers, how they're processing their friends, how they're processing what's going on in our world? Because that has come up as a serious concern even in schools, that students really want to have conversations about what's happening in their world and how that's impacting their mental health as well.
Saying just the word mental health, these two words, it just freaks out a lot of parents. It freaks out community. Thankfully, we are to the point where at least we are saying it out loud a little bit, but having to point that out to a child, a parent has to be in understanding that it is okay. It is okay to reach out for help. It is okay. And if the professional is seeing some signs, it is all right. So now let's talk about the help part. So when those signs surface, when they see certain things and the behavior change, grade or however so, what are, in general, is there any in standard therapies, medications? How do we approach that?
Right, and let me just stop for a second to say what mental health really is. It's how you take care of your mind, just like your physical health. So mental health disorder means that something has gone awry and we need to focus on that. So all of us have a mental health. We are taking care of it. We do mindfulness, we eat, we exercise. Those are preventative things. But when it becomes a disorder, it's when it starts to impact your life every day. So what are some interventions that parents can do? There's medication, but medication alone, it's not good, because what you want to do is have students and children to learn about coping skills. So for different disabilities or different disorders, there are medications that are prescribed, but therapies are really good. Counseling, cognitive behavioral therapy that helps to change those thinking patterns, which then impact the behavior of a child. Play therapy is excellent for younger children. They may not have the language to be able to articulate the traumas that they've been through or experiences, but play therapy is an excellent way to kind of get that information out and help them to heal. Some other things that I think are really helpful in the homeopathic kind of mindset, it's like mindfulness, meditation. A lot of schools are really moving towards that. They're giving breaks for students in school to take deep breaths, to have opportunities to kind of focus in on themselves and to center themselves. When we're living in such a challenging time, we can't take that for granted. The last couple of years have been very challenging to our system. And so to our children who are the most vulnerable, it has really been challenging. A lot of them have experienced food insecurity, housing insecurity, which we already knew was happening prior to the pandemic, but it has been exacerbated with that pandemic. And so those children are vulnerable. And so who is going to be there for them to protect them and teach them how to cope during these challenging times? So medication plus therapy, I cannot emphasize enough, is the best way to help. And then some folks rely on their faith. You know, there's a multidisciplinary approach to mental health and mental wellness. And I think what works for every family is different because we have to consider those variables. But at the same time, I think when things get to be too extreme, that's when we really need to up and tier 3 what I would call the interventions and supports for those families.
I agree. So when things get too extreme, and then somehow, and they do land into the judicial system. And here we have Ms. Cora Fisher. So Ms. Fisher, talk to me about when you get these cases that has mental health affiliation with it. What are the challenges that you deal with as you're processing those cases in the judicial system? And what percentage of the cases that land in our juvenile judicial system are related to mental health?
So in juvenile court, we handle cases typically from the age of 12 to 16-year-olds, but we can occasionally see cases as young as 9, 10, and 11, where the child's behavior has just gone to the point that the parents are unable to manage those behaviors. So a lot of times they end up coming into the court system, the parents have reached their wits' end, they don't know where to go to or how to handle their child. So if they are under the age of 13, a lot of times they go through a very informal process where a community roundtable comes together with school and treatment providers trying to see what services are necessary for the child. We usually take any past medical history that the family has already done and try to work with them. We have multiple counselors on staff available depending on their insurance. If they don't have insurance, we're able to assist with that. We also just have multiple classes and programs to teach kids how to make better decisions, how to learn their triggers, and learn some coping skills to assist with them. If they do end up in delinquency court because they've committed what people see as a crime, a lot of times we get the first psychological evaluation. So the family may not know what's going on. They know something's wrong, but we're able to get an evaluator to sit down and do assessments to determine, okay, is it psychosis, is it ADHD, is it depression? We also have psychiatrists we refer to, so this might be the first time the child's getting on medication. If they end up on probation, which means that there is a court officer supervising them, we can make sure that they're doing their medication management, that they are attending counseling, that their parents are on top of it, assisting their child to the best of their ability. And a lot of times we find that, you know, once we've done the evaluations and the assessments, then we go to outpatient treatment. And sometimes it requires residential treatment, and that is a very rare resource that we often see as a necessity, but there is a process and a procedure in place, so it takes longer than many people realize, but it is there and it can be very valuable. I would say roughly about 30 to 40% of our cases have a diagnosed mental health disorder that requires specialized attention to that child.
Wow, 20 to 30%.
I think 30 to 40%. A lot of times it's ADHD and depression, but we are starting to see a lot of bipolar. We're seeing a lot of psychosis, and these are disorders that our system is really not prepared for, but you know, we do have the ability to be that shoulder for families to assist them and hopefully ease their burden while providing a treatment plan going forward.
So Ms. Sims, mental health court. Tell our viewers, some of them might not even know the existence of this. What is a mental health court? What are the processes and procedures that are in place? What kind of qualification method, if there is any in place, that one must go through to be part of it? And how long it is? And then what kind of resources are provided after that?
Okay. So the mental health court is basically a program that's put together in a collaborative effort between the courts, the district attorney's office, probation office, as well as the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office, and treatment providers. Right now, the treatment provider we work with is Viewpoint Health, and it's a program where people who are facing a criminal action, meaning that they've been accused of committing a crime, but who also suffer from underlying substance abuse or a mental health disorder, can be a part of this court-mandated or court program where they receive treatment under judicial supervision, close judicial supervision, and other wraparound related services to help them to rehabilitate the underlying issues. We help with mental health treatment. They undergo individual as well as group counseling. They also, if there's an underlying substance abuse issue, there's drug treatment and substance abuse treatment that's offered as well as part of the program. The program is set up in a way where we reward compliant behavior, and then you are held accountable for behavior that operates adverse to the program rules. So you can be put back in custody for periods of time if you're not complying with the rules of the program. Mental health court program, if you're charged with a felony or a misdemeanor and you wind up in mental health court, is about 18 months. For juvenile offenders, it's called the Behavioral Health Court, and it's also referred to as Connections. That's 9 months, about half the length of the adult program. To get into that program, you have to have a pending criminal charge or be under sentence for having committed a criminal offense, and you have to apply. For mental health court, there's actually an application. As part of that application, you have to be diagnosed with a mental health disorder or be willing to undergo an evaluation where we can determine if there is an underlying mental health disorder at play. For adult mental health court, that is defined as a severe and persistent mental illness, meaning that it's not just mere depression that can get you into the program. There's diagnoses similar to schizophrenia or major depressive disorder, something of that nature that is impacting your daily life function. And there has to be some sort of nexus or connection between the underlying criminal activity and the mental health disorder that the person is being affected by. There are certain crimes that if you're charged with a severe or a serious violent felony, you're not permitted in an accountability court. And that's just for the safety of all those involved in the program. So if you've been charged with murder or some serious violent felony, you're not eligible for a mental health court program. But otherwise, most other offenses are permitted to enter the mental health court program. Once you're in that program, there are 4 phases of the program. At the beginning of the program, you come to court every week. The court is closely following your treatment and development in that program. You're going to individual counseling, you're participating in group counseling, you're working with your peers and with the court who's there to support you in your recovery and in your mental health treatment. The court checks in with you on a daily basis almost. There is a case manager assigned who's also guiding the person through the process and making sure that all of those supports are there. The sheriff's office provides surveillance. The probation department, if you're on probation while in the program, is also closely involved with the person who's in the program as they move through that program. It's really a way to help reduce recidivism, to help aid in rehabilitation, and helping people who have struck some problem along the way get back on track and become a contributing member of society again.
So do you see any uprise in such cases, in a sense that the mental health court is becoming more and more busier now than it was before?
There is. Since COVID-19, we've had more and more people apply to the mental health court program, and there's been an uptick in the participation. But I believe there's just not the community awareness about what we do. And I think that if people were more aware of what we offer, that there would be more people to take advantage of the program. In order to be in the program, you must be a resident of Gwinnett County. However, we have people who have living challenges. There's a large homelessness population here in this community, and there's just not the adequate resources. But the mental health court is willing to help find residences, and there are a number of places that we work with. So if you don't have a stable residence in the county, we can work and help you to acquire a stable residence in order to participate in the program.
And that is true, that awareness is not there. People do not understand how the systems work and what we have offer. That's why we have community conversations. That's why we want to converse and we want to share the problems, talk about it, and see what resources are available so people can benefit from those resources. So last but not least, Mr. Freeman, thank you so much for being here with us today and your willingness to share your story. Tell us all about your story. Tell us how it started with your child. What were the signs that you saw? What challenges were there in social life, regular life, home life, school life? And then finally, when it was addressed, what was it that actually helped in getting him or her back on track?
Well, with me, I don't think I really noticed anything different. I just noticed that, my kid would get in trouble in school every now and then. And I noticed that I was going to the school more frequently than what when I was in school, I didn't really get in trouble that much. But I'm like, after you talk to them so much and like, why am I constantly talking to the principal? And, but in my situation with my daughter, she had a traumatic moment and it kind of sent her into a downward spiral. And we tried to get her like help and counseling and was reaching out to different programs to try to get her help. But ultimately at the end of the day, she had this traumatic experience and I just noticed, that's when I noticed the change and she needed medications and stuff like that. And she never really did like serious criminal acts. She's actually, she only got in trouble for like fighting. But when she tried to do the probation, she couldn't complete it. She kept violating for like being non-compliant or running away, stuff like that. And, she violated her probation and she came back home and violated again. She just couldn't seem to stay on track. And just recently, she went to a mental health facility and they got her on medications and she's stable now. And I could tell there's been progress. But a family, like you never really, the kid, they don't really realize what they put their family through. And, you got to take off from work and you got to miss school and miss work and to go to court or doctor's appointments, or they don't think about that part and it could be a drag, but you have to support your child through it and do whatever it takes to keep them, moving forward in a productive way. But, what I realized is, that saying, they said it takes a village to raise a child. When you have other people in the community and in your family that's actively involved in helping you out with your kid, it could definitely be life-changing. And right now I'm looking forward to, I think she's gonna be okay right now.
So
at the end of the day,
for parents, what message will you give to the parents who are watching you right now and they are dealing with it, but they don't want to probably share or say it out to the other relatives, to the community members, or however so? So what message will you give to the parents?
I will say, my advice to any parents is to listen to your kids when sometimes they cry out or they act out and you really don't know what's wrong with them, but they're trying to address a problem internally and maybe you don't know how to deal with it, but I say it starts with listening to them, because when you don't listen to them, I feel like they build up a boundary around them and they feel like they're not getting the attention they're needing, or you're not listening to what they're having to say, and they go out and try to find happiness in the streets and with friends and using drugs and stuff like that. So try to keep a my advice is to try to keep a good communication between you and your child. And that's a start right there. Listen to what they have to say, talk to them, and encourage them.
So, Dr. Watley, what message will you give to the community?
Slow down, take time, and see your children. And you know, what you were saying matters so much. That listening piece is the part that I think that children, in my experience, when they talk to me, they feel like things are happening to them and adults are doing things to them, but we need to make them a part of it. And we really need to, as adults, carve out that time to sit and talk to each one of your kids. And I know it's hard, but it's such an important piece to connect with them every day. And particularly now, the world has changed so much for the group of children coming through now that they really need us to sit still and be with them.
I agree. So, Ms. Fisher, under the light of all the cases that you roll into juvenile court, what message will you give to the community?
So I think it's really important to note that juvenile court, its principal foundation is treatment, rehabilitation, and supervision. It is not about punishment at all. But I would like to piggyback after Mr. Freeman and the doctor is, be involved in your child's life. Go to their school events, sit down, have a conversation with them, show up for them. And children have a hard time communicating efficiently, and often that can cause a lot of arguments between the child and parent and create a rift. And it's just really important to sit down and shut up and just listen to what they're saying, and then ask follow-up questions of, okay, you said X, Y, Z, can you explain what Y is? And see if that involvement with your child can lead you to a resolution. If you are going to provide any sort of grounding discipline with cell phones or something, explain why you're taking that cell phone away. Don't just snatch it out of their hand, but say, hey, look, because you did not complete your homework in a timely fashion, I'm going to take your phone for 2 hours. I'm doing this so you're not distracted while you complete that homework. And hopefully this will help resolve the issues. But you know, if your child is saying, hey, I think I might be depressed. These kids have access to internet. They've looked up their symptoms. They've already have self-diagnosed. They may already be leading to substance abuse, trying to address that issue because they don't feel comfortable talking to you. So, you know, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be concerned for your child, but there are people out there who are trained to help you with this communication and help you with any potential mental health disorders.
Thank you. And Ms. Sims?
If I could give a message to the community, it would be that accountability courts are here to help. I think that there's a stigma with getting involved in the court system or allowing the court system access to your life, but this is a resource that's here to help members of the community. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that it's set up for you to fail, but it's exactly the opposite. It's set up for you to win, to help you to win. It offers a collaborative effort to help support the needs of those who are suffering from mental health disorders in the community. Also those who are suffering with substance abuse. It's a resource that should be utilized, and a lot of times it can help offenders keep from having a criminal conviction after being arrested or being charged with the crime. So it does offer an avenue for diversion, an alternative resolution to a criminal offense, and it's something that the community should be aware of and should take advantage of.
So in conclusion, I would like to thank all the panelists for their time and sharing your expertise with us. And special thanks to all the viewers today for joining us. So we heard, we learned. Every day we see, we feel, and in some ways we're hurting because mental health is for real. It is very important for all of us to take care of our mental health and to maintain it. Take care of the mental health of our loved ones and of our community as a whole. Thank you so much for joining. I look forward for you guys to be joining us as we step into 2023 with further conversations. Thank you and stay blessed.